Hey yo, how are we doing, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It is a beautiful day today, so I thought, let's do a live stream. Let's talk about the cryptocurrency market. I'm seeing some, interesting looking setup on the daily. I'm seeing some divergences. I'm seeing some. I'm seeing, something that is worth talking about. I am seeing risk worth taking. So I think it is only right that we talk about what we see in the chart. It is only right that we talk about some opportunities. It is only right that we, talk about it, because if we don't, who else is going to talk about it? Welcome back again. Merry Christmas to you, Florence. Hopefully, you are having a blast. Merry Christmas to all of you guys, even if you don't celebrate it. Merry Christmas to you. This is going to be a fantastic live stream. We are going to focus on the altcoin market. I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin at all. I am not going to talk about Bitcoin at all. I'm going to keep the conversation on the altcoin market. So, hopefully that is not, hopefully that's something that you guys are going to enjoy. Once again, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing Christmas. So, let's get to it. Let's get straight to it. I was just looking at some altcoins. I was looking at, AVAX. I was looking at what else was I looking at? I was looking at some of these altcoins, and I thought, the daily time frame is looking very interesting. I'm seeing some bullish divergency. I'm seeing some higher highs and higher lows on the RSI, on the MACD. I'm seeing lower lows and lower highs on the price. And that is interesting. That is exactly what a market that is about to go up looks like. Now, this is not long term. I want to make sure that I'm very clear on this, because if you watch my streams, if you watch my market analysis, I'm bearish on the market. So I don't want you guys to think I was bearish yesterday long term. All of a sudden I'm bullish on the market long term. No, that is not what is happening. What is happening is, we talked about, in a long term downtrend, there is counter trend rallies, and we call them bear market rallies, or day cap bounce. This is what I'm talking about. So let's let's get to it. Let me not waste your time. Let's get straight to the point and see what looks interesting. See some bullish divergences. I'm gonna start with AVAX. AVAX, $12.41. If you look at this daily setup, AVAX has been bearish since. We can go all the way back since right here. We can go back from $35. Lower highs. This is your lower highs right here. Lower highs. These are your lower highs right here. Every single one of these rallies has gave us lower highs. Another lower high right here. And then we also had lower lows. These are your lower lows right here. Lower lows right there. Lower lows. So we have an AVAX that's been in a clear downtrend, for the last couple months right now, because this goes back from October, early October, actually not October, September, right? $35. That was back in September. Now, looking at AVAX, I am seeing something that is very interesting. So, going back to when the price of AVAX was around $20, right? Despite a continuation of this pullback in the price, the RSI, daily RSI, has been giving us higher lows and higher highs. So you can clearly see as the price of AVAX has been going down, the RSI has been rising. This is very positive. And this is exactly what we call bullish divergence. If you look at to the MACD, if you go down to the MACD, once again, since $20, back in October, price was going down or has been going down. But if you look at the MACD, the MACD has been giving us higher highs and higher lows. Once again, very positive right here. So this is something that is worth talking about. All right. I'm not saying that this is going to be a bullish breakout for the long term. But I do believe, as long as we don't get a fake out, as long as we, continue to do exactly what we are doing, I don't see why the price of AVAX wouldn't go all the way up into, even to $18. All right. It may be higher. So I'm just going to go with $18 right now. Like, I wouldn't see why, price wouldn't go up. If you go from the lows all the way up to 18, this is a 60% move. All right. So I'm liking this, to be very honest with you. And also, if you put a trend line from $23, so you take this high right here, you connect it to this high, it gives us a nice breakout. So I view this as a pullback of this breakout. All right. This is a pullback of this breakout right here. This is how I view this price action. So I'm looking at AVAX right now, and I think there is a trade worth taking right here. I think this is a good entry with a stop loss just right below $11.29. So that is a 10% risk for, if we're going after $18. If we're going after 18, we're looking at a 45% move. So the risk right here is about 10%, and profits is about 45. So if you think about what the risk is and what the reward is, I think this is a trade that is worth taking. This will be AVAX. If we go to the 4-hour, right, this is looking, once again, this is looking pretty good. If I'm on this 4-hour right here. All right, you look at RSI has already broken above the 50 line. The MACD also broke above the 0 line, which is actually very bullish. Look, yeah, I like it. I like this right here. Yeah, I really, really like what I'm seeing in the chart. So this is AVAX. There's a couple more coins. There's a couple more altcoins with a very similar setup. And actually, it's like almost the entire altcoin market. So the next one I was looking at, I believe, was in Near Protocol. Let's take a look at Near Protocol right here. So if you look at Near Protocol, let me get rid of all this. Once again, now this one doesn't look as good as AVAX. This one it's got some work to do. If you look at AVAX, AVAX is more advanced. Yeah, I like AVAX much, much better. Let me go with, let's take a look at SUI. All right, this one looks good as well too. Okay, so if you look at SUI, once again, a clean downtrend on this daily since This one, you got to go back to July. So right here, 430. Every single one of these rallies, lower highs. This is a lower high, lower high, lower high, all the way down. All right. And then you have lower lows, all the way down. But once again, look, if you look at the performance from right here all the way down, you know, and you look at your MACD, you know, if you look at this MACD right here, you look at the RSI, price is down, price is low, but we have bullish divergences right here. Right here, bullish divergency. So if I'm looking at this, once again, this is your breakout. This is your breakout. This is your retest of the breakout. So if I'm looking at SUI, and we talked about SUI, of course, guys, I think you're looking at probably this entire box between 220 and 270. I think this is an area of interest. Okay. So how do you trade something like this? Very simple. You know, a stop loss just right below $1.31. If this is an entry, you're going after a 60% move, and your risk is about, how much are we risking? Risk is about, let's say, 9%. So once again, if you think about these double R's, this is risk, this is returns. This is a trade that makes sense to me. All right. Bullish divergency. You're getting in very closer to your invalidation. So if price goes below 131, you know, you don't want anything to do with the project. You know, exit, reassess, and look for a different entry. But to me, this is looking pretty good. But once again, a move like this is not going to change, you know, the bigger picture. This is a short-term trade. This is the, you know, the bear market rally that we've talked about. So I'm liking this. To me, this is looking very, very positive. I would say this is looking more than just interesting. I would say this is looking very positive. If you go to the 4-hour, what we want is, you know, exactly what we have right here. Right, you look at your RSI. Look, RSI is right here. Price is still here. Right, RSI is in the 40s. The price is very close to your invalidations. To me, this is really, really good. The MACD looks pretty good. All right, MACD is very closer to the zero line. Basically, this is your bull market territory or your bullish territory in this case. Yeah, this one looks really good. Let's look at a different one. Let's take a look at Aerodrome Finance. You know, some of these coins, some of these tokens, they look better than others. So you have to. Okay, this one, yeah, this one doesn't look as good as Sui and what was the other one? Sui and AVAX. Yeah, so let's hunt for a different one. Let's take a look at XLM. So XLM here, do we have? Okay, this one is. Yeah, this one. Okay, also looking pretty good, but I want to see this RSI, you know, very close to 50. Like RSI right now is around in the 30s. Yeah, I want to see RSI very close to the 50s. So, anyways, look, if I'm looking at this, like, do we have a breakout? Yeah, probably not. If XLM can get above 26 cents, I think we'll have a conversation. Right now, I'm not really a fan of this setup. But look, if you think there's some stuff, if you think there's something in here, So let's say you have your trend line like this. Okay, this is your breakout. This is your breakout. This is a retest of the breakout. Okay, I get it. All right. And you are here, you're trying for like 30 cents. This is a range. This is the range right here. If you're going after Stella, all right, you're looking at a 30 to 70% move. That would be the range. And your stop loss right here would be, you're putting a stop loss right here below 20 cents. If I go to the 4 hour, okay, this is, yeah, okay, this looks good. Long as the price, stays above 20 cents, I also like it. Yeah, look, yeah, very good looking chart actually. Yeah, this is looking decent. Anyways, so that would be Stella. So 3 altcoins, so far where they look like we might get something in the near future. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching, hit the like button. H bar. Let's get into H bar. So do we? H bar. Okay. Yeah, this one also looks pretty good. Once again, if I'm looking at this right here, you look at your MACD, bullish divergency. Might take some time, but if I put a trend line right here, we might have to wait for a breakout. There we go. So we wait for, I think this would be a good place to get in as well, but I'm struggling with, where do I put a stop loss? And the reason is because, sometimes you get a breakout and then the pullback of the breakout, takes out the previous lows. So what I like is not getting in right here, waiting to see what this will look like. So if we get something like this and then bounce, I'm happy to say, okay, jump in somewhere around here. But right now it's I like it, but I will be a little bit more cautious. Now, if you want to get in and you don't want to put a stop loss, I get it. Maybe you dollar cost average right here, and then you wait for a pullback, and then you put your stop loss below whatever low we get. But I think that is a risky way to invest in the market. But I like this. This is looking pretty good. So if we do get a move, you start looking at this entire range in terms of, where are we more likely to stop? You start looking at between 15 cents and 22 cents. I don't think we go above 22 cents. I think we go up to retest, the 21 weekly moving average. That would be around, yeah, you see the 21 is around 16 cents. So if we go from here, this is a big move though. This is a 50% move. And then we get rejected and then, we continue this weekly downtrend. So if we go back to the daily, yeah, I'm liking this. I'm definitely liking this, but we still need to break out. So H bar looks really, really good. Merry Christmas. Yep. Christ is born. Absolutely. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Hopefully you guys are having a good one. I'm sure, lots of family time, lots of fun. I spent time with my family earlier today. Spent time with my, wife and kids, and we'll spend some more time, of course. I thought about you guys. Let me spend, a good couple minutes live streaming, talking about this market that we all love, despite the difficulties in 2025. Excuse me. I wish we were still in 2021 because that was an incredible bull market. But Merry Christmas. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you are, enjoying the holiday season. And I mean, your portfolio, that is a completely different conversation. So yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing across the altcoin market. But let's be very clear. This is liking what we are seeing in the short term, right? Liking what we are seeing in the short term. Basically, we are trying to catch a day cap bounce. This is not a bull market all over again. I want to make sure that I'm very clear because I just don't want any of you guys to say I'm flip-flopping. Inside of a long-term downtrend, there is I don't want to say a mini bull market, but there's a period when the market is bullish, and that could be a couple of days, that could be a couple of weeks. It's not going to be months, but nothing goes down in a straight line, and we talked about this. XRP. Let's talk about XRP. So XRP, here we are. All right. I've analyzed this. So XRP on the daily right here. Also, to me, this is also looking really good. Like from here, you got these lower lows, lower highs. And if we look at the MACD, once again, the MACD has been going up. So this is what we call bullish divergence. You look at the RSI has also been going up. So if I'm looking at this, all right, to me, this looks really good. Now, do we have a breakout yet? Maybe not, but I think this is a good place to be a buyer as well. So I'm going to go from this high right here, work my way down. So this would be your breakout resistance around 19 cents. Once we get above 19, not 19 cents, just $1.90. This is $1.90, this yellow right here. But if we can get above $1.95, I think that triggers the confirmation, and you're more likely to see an XRP that retests. I'm gonna go with 228 or 230. So basically, this is my top right here. All right. So if I'm looking at XRP right here, guys, I think this is a good entry. My stop loss would be just right below $1.77. Now, this range to me is very interesting. This entire range from $1.62 to $1.95. I think if we can get a breakout and then we get a pullback down here, I think this is a much more aggressive entry. And the profits here are actually more compared to if we just go up from the current price. I can see like a 40% move. But if we just go up from here, then we're more likely looking at a 20% move. All right. But XRP also looks really good. Once again, in terms of bullish divergences. So RSI looking pretty good. MACD looking pretty good. I can show you guys examples of what we are talking about here. So maybe if we go back, we might see some bullish divergency inside of a bear market, a short-term bullish price move. So here we have XRP in, this is 2022. So let's see if we have some bullish. Okay, so right here, this is a perfect example actually. So 2022, you look at right here, actually we just kind of went sideways. So if you look at your MACD right here, MACD was giving us very positive divergency. RSI was giving us very positive divergency, but price was actually going sideways. Well, maybe not. Yeah, this was definitely sideways. So I'm talking about this right here. There we go. So price wasn't really doing much. Here we have a low. Here we have a lower low. Here we have, a retest of these local highs, a retest of these local lows, and then we finally get a breakout. So this move right here, if you go from the lows to the top, This was a 90% move, a 90% price increase. I'm not saying we get a 90% price increase like that, but that is an example of what we have right now. So fast forward to today, we have an XRP on the daily that is also displaying bullish divergences, while the MACD and the RSI has been, giving us higher highs and higher lows. The MACD is, while price has been giving us lower lows and lower highs, MACD and RSI are telling us a different story. So something very positive to look forward to in the short term. Let's do an update on Pippin. I don't know exactly what I said the last time I analyzed it, so let me look at it right now. Yeah, so this project I'm really not a fan, not because I don't like the setup, but it's simply because to me the risk is not there. I mean, the risk is not worth it. There's a lot of risk there. The reason is because, at least based on the way I do things, I would have loved to be a buyer, before this breakout right here. Because if I'm looking at a project like Pimpin, the one question that I always ask myself is, what is my exit if I'm getting in right here? All right. And what that means is that if I'm buying something that is already up, I mean, just think about this. This thing is up 20x from literally November. All right. This thing has done a 20x since November. What is your game plan? I'm talking to myself. If I'm looking at something like this, what is my game plan? What is my exit strategy? Why am I getting into something that's already up 20 times in less than 2 months? Right. I'm just an exit liquidity at that point, because those that got in here, they're taking profits right now. And if they're not taking profits, look, I don't know what is the expectation. 50 times, 60 times, 100 times your investment. All right. I don't want to say the top is in because, TA wise, I don't see a sign the top is in. Price may go up, but I wouldn't feel comfortable. Something is already up 20 times in less than 2 months. Why am I providing equality? So I don't like this, but I will give you an update because this is not about me. This is about, analyzing and, looking at it from a TA perspective. So if I'm looking at Pimpin, it looks really good. All right. It looks really good because we still have, despite the pullback, we'll still have a nice uptrend on the daily. Higher highs, higher lows. So right now, I'm not going to say this is a time to be a buyer because I don't like it. Like, I don't like entries right here. I will wait for a pullback. Me personally, I will wait for a pullback. I want to make sure price doesn't go below 26 cents. You go below 26 cents, what that does, it breaks this daily uptrend. And what that means is that you could potentially be looking at a retest of 13 cents and also a retest of, the absolute lows of this entire impulse. So you're looking at 4 to 2 cents. All right. This is not a prediction. I'm just providing the aftermath if we were to break 26 cents. So what I would like to see if I was interested in the position is a big pullback. Let me see how 26 cents is going to react. If we get a pullback and we don't take out 26 cents, what that would mean to me would be that we are ready for the next leg up. So entry somewhere around maybe like 30, 35 cents with a stop loss below 26 cents. And then I'm targeting, above 75 cents. But let me say something though. You see this daily close from yesterday? This is not good. You have to be patient because this is a brand new daily candle. Let's see where this is going to close. I'm willing to say, I mean, look, my opinion doesn't really mean anything, but I'm willing to say by the end of today, we could potentially close below 49 cents. All right, I'm just looking at the open of or the close of yesterday. This is not good right here. The reason this is not good is because the moment we broke above 53 cents, all right, in order to be more comfortable that there was going to be a continuation of the move, we need a price to close above 53 cents. But what happened was we ended up closing below. So to me, I don't like that. If we go back to the 4 hour, all right, again, this is not a good looking candle right here. And if you look at this 4 hour right here, actually, I might bring that up. You have, to me, this is bearish divergences right here. Like price is not really going up. We're going up, but we're not really achieving much. So I'm looking at this, and this is not looking well to me. Only way to be comfortable, we gotta be above the 60 cents range. Like this 53. Yeah, this 53 resistance is big on the daily, but still, man, we gotta get above this yellow line. We gotta push into the 70s and trade higher. So I think right now, you have a resistance, a very clear resistance here, and then you have a support right down here, guys. You lose this, you come back to 26 cents. You lose 26, you come back to 13, and then, we're going lower. But guess what, dude? I'm not bearish right now. I'm just saying I don't like it, all right? Just the risk is not worth it to me. And, look, I don't know what you're planning on doing with this, but if you have a position, I mean, you know what your game plan is, but I wouldn't be comfortable. That's just me. I wouldn't be comfortable right here. So hopefully that is helpful. Looking at other altcoins, let's talk about Dogecoin. So I want to focus on the daily because the weekly, I mean, it's just not worth it, to be honest. So looking at Dogecoin right here, remember, I'm using RSI and MACD because I'm hunting for these bullish divergences. So, yeah, look, price has been going down, but you look at your RSI and you look at your MACD right here. This is what we call bullish divergency. Higher highs, higher lows. If I'm looking at Dogecoin, look, maybe we get a breakout pretty soon. Let me go like this. You go from this high right here. This is a beautiful, look, maybe we can go like this. Depending on how you want to look at this right here. All right. This is your breakout. This is your resistance that was broken. You can actually say that this was the breakout. You can say this was a breakout. This is a retest of the breakout. Or you can say this is the breakout. This is a retest of the breakout. So, yeah, look, I think if I'm looking at Dogecoin, if I like this as an entry, stop plus just right below 12 cents. Let me go to the 4 hour. So, look at the 4 hour right there. Okay, so I'm looking at, if I'm looking at this, stop loss just right below 12 cents. And I'm thinking about, Dogecoin potentially coming up to retest. I'm going to go with 18 cents. I think 18 cents is the big target. So in terms of what that looks like, you're going after, 45+% move. And your risk right here is about, you don't have to get in right now. Maybe you wait for a bounce. Maybe you wait for, a few more days of price action for this daily to give you some sort of a setup. But if this is your entry and if your stop loss is below 12 cents, the risk is less than 10%. Yeah, you're risking about 7% of your capital, but the profits are just enormous. So yeah, I'm liking this. If you go to the 4 hour, once again, maybe you don't jump ship right now and grab a position. Maybe you wait for some sort of a bounce, and then you look to capitalize. But I'm liking this. Yeah, the short term, I think this market is starting to look. I don't want to say sexy, but it's starting to look, yeah, very interesting, right? So yeah, RSI is down in the 40s. I want to see the RSI creep up just a little bit higher, and also I would like to see the MACD, very close to the zero line. So those are some of the stuff that I'm kind of looking at right now. This might take a couple more days, but I think there's something there to be excited about. So if you think about that, let me show you an example of something very similar. If you come back to during this big drop right here, so we had the RSI and the MACD trending up right here, very similar to what we have right now. This was between February and April of 2025. Okay, and if we come back right here, if you put a trend line, if you go from this top right here, you work your way down. Okay, this is your breakout. This is your retest of the breakout. The retest of the breakout, as you guys can clearly see, didn't take out. I mean, we took out the lows, but quickly got back up, and that was basically the beginning of this impulse move. This was a 100% pump. So yes, something very similar is happening right here. Okay. Now be careful. Yes, once again, look. So this is why I think you may have to just be a little bit more patient, because let's say you get in right here. What if we're right directional wise, but if you have a stop loss below 12 cents, you get stopped out. I would say maybe you wait until price comes down and then we get a bounce. And then this is your entry, and then with a stop loss, and then you wait for price to go up to these levels right here. But I'm liking what I'm seeing right here, guys. Like, to me, this looks really, really good. Once again, appreciate you guys. If you are here for the first time, give us a subscribe. All right, subscribe, hit the like button as well if you're watching, and let's keep it going. And of course, it's a beautiful day. It's a big day. Merry Christmas. Hopefully you guys are having a blast with your, well, maybe not right now because you're watching the stream, but hopefully you spend some time with wife, kids, family, friends, your loved ones. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. I got about, how much more time do I have? Yeah, I got about just a few minutes, because I don't want to spend my entire day, looking at this market. Let's talk about CRV. CRV is actually looking pretty good. CRV looks really good. Let's talk about it. So CRV, bullish divergence, exactly as we've talked about with these other altcoins. Now this is a breakout right here. Okay, this is a clean breakout. Now, well, let me go back a little bit. So this is your MACD giving us a bullish divergence right here. Don't wait for the MACD to cross above the zero line. That might be too late. You might be chasing something that's way, way higher. RSI has finally broken above the 50, but once again, bullish divergence with this RSI right here. So if I'm looking at this, okay, I would say this is a good entry. Now, maybe you might want to wait until the dailies actually close, but I would say this is a good entry. Now, I will also say that we could get a pullback, and I think a pullback is more likely. We could get a pullback like this, back to around 35, even 33 cents, and then we can go up. All right. If I go down to the 4-hour time frame, so you can see, yeah, this looks really good, man. This is good to me. All right. We might get a pullback. We might not. And this is why sometimes, when you do get a breakout, that first candle, you want to be a buyer. Now, got to keep in mind, you might get hit with a pullback. But to me, this looks really good. So CRV, I am liking what I'm seeing right here. This is super. Now, I wouldn't get in right here. I will wait. Yeah, I will wait for this daily to close. But this looks really good. So in terms of targets for this one, I think you target between 55 and 65 cents. So I would say you have to target this entire range. All right. Look, this is not a long-term bullish structure. This is just in the short term. Long term, if I'm looking at this, that means, we will have to go up to like this range right here, and then we might have to get a big pullback at some point. Maybe even come back here and then we go up. The reason is because I'm just looking at this weekly setup right here, guys. Like, I don't think this thing goes up without building a, bullish weekly structure. So think about this right here. So you get a breakout on the weekly, and then you get a retest of the weekly. So if this is what we are about to get, then my expectation would be, some sort of a big breakout, and then, we get a big pullback, down in the 40 cents, even back in the 30 cents range. And then, the next impulse move will bring us up to, $1, $2. And I don't want to talk about that because that is not what's happening. So I'm just looking at the daily, and I just think, a day cap bounce. Now, do we get a pullback on the daily, or do we just, on the daily, do we just, continue to go up because eventually we're just dealing with a day cap bounce? Like, I don't know how this is going to play out. But what I would say is that this is looking pretty good. Like, this is sick, actually. Yeah. All right, what else? Let me talk about Solana. So Solana going to the daily. Yeah, I think, man. Solana going to this daily right here. Bullish divergence. Yeah, look, I'm gonna say I think all coins are all coins are ready to go up. I'm just gonna say that. Look, if I'm wrong, I'm perfectly fine with you. But it looks like all coins really, really wants to go up. So breakout. This is a clear breakout. Even if we adjust this trend line and then go like that. Clear breakout. Okay, like we might pull back to this 116. Who knows how this is going to play out? But to me, the structure looks right. I will be comfortable actually to dollar cost average in the short term in this market and try to capture, like a nice move. So if I'm looking at Solana, for me, in terms of targets, like this to me is what I'm interested in. From 150 to 170. Like, I don't think Solana gives us a crazy. This is a 20% move. This is almost a 40% move. So those would be my targets. So a really, really good and interesting looking market. You do what you do with the information. This is not financial advice. I want to make sure that I'm very clear. This is not financial advice. I'm pretty much extremely bearish on this market long term. And as you guys can see, We focused on the daily, we focused on the lower time today. We didn't focus on the monthly, the weekly. That's not what we focused on. So most of my updates from recently, most of my bearish updates from recent times, they all have to do with, looking at the bigger picture. But in the short term, one thing that we talked about was that we are going to have a day cap bounce. We are going to have, a relief rally because we are due for one. So maybe this is the one right here. All right, chat. I just did 45 minutes. Once again, I do appreciate you guys. Do appreciate the fact that you find value in my live stream, in my uh, market analysis, and hopefully I'm providing value. And if not, let me know how else I could be helpful, guys. This is look. I think 2026 is going to be. I just think 26 is going to be bearish. I'm perfectly fine if I'm wrong. I would like to be wrong because I do want to make money when price are going up. All right. I don't want look. I rather long the market than short the market. But what can we do, right? My opinion, your opinion, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the only opinion that we should take to the bank is the market, right? That the market, the market, the opinion of the market is the only one that we should take to the bank, and that is everything that I wanted to talk about today. Look, I do not want to analyze 40 different altcoins. If I analyze Solana, most likely the next altcoin look exactly like Solana. So why bother? I didn't want to do Bitcoin today because honestly, guys, I just look $88,000 and no breakout so far. I don't see a need to. Like if I'm looking at this right here, yeah, I mean look, there's nothing to talk about. Anyways, appreciate you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you again